down below 1,000 for Golf Kilo and Limburg Tango.
Welcome to It Is Written Canada. Thank you for joining us here at BC Helicopters in beautiful Abbotsford, British Columbia, where you will hear some helicopters taking off and landing. Our special guests are Ruben Diaz and Mischa Gelb, who shared an epic dream, a passion for flying helicopters, and they united their interests launching the epic global Heli Tour.
This trip around the world in a helicopter would carry them over 60,000 kilometers with 107 stops, traversing at least 45 countries on 5 different continents. Ruben and Mischa, we are looking forward to hearing your intriguing adventure. Welcome to It Is Written Canada.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Ruben and Mischa, what was the objective of this trip around the world?
Well, we call it the Epic World Tour. Epic stood for Empowering People, Inspiring Change, something that Ruben came up with. And it kind of, we were thinking about what were all the reasons, because there was a lot of them, as to why we wanted to go on this trip. And I think we wanted to be able to inspire people with the lifestyle that we live and the passion that we have for flying helicopters and exploring the world and seeing those things. And so I think that was a springboard. But
yeah, and also the achievement of having actually conquered something that was a dream for a long time for both of us. And it came just as a normal flight that was being trained by Mischa, and we discovered that we both had that dream and wanted to do someday. And we said, why we don't do it the right way? Let's do it right now. Meaning planning for it, preparing for it. So it was a natural thing that we had been nurturing for a long time, of achieving a personal accomplishment that we've been dreaming for a long time. And then we wanted to put a purpose on this dream, so we associated entrepreneurship and healthy living into the whole project.
So Ruben and Mischa, you are both Christian businessmen, entrepreneurs, and you love flying. So tell us where this passion for flying originated for both of you.
Yeah, both of us when we were pretty young. When I was 16 years old, my mom gave me it was a 12-minute flight in a helicopter. And that was all it took to spark the interest. And from that moment on, it was like, I have to do this for my career. I have to do this for a living. I want to be in the air. I want to fly helicopters. And so it was just this, this passion that snowballed into figuring out a way to actually make it happen. So, yeah.
And I was probably the same age, actually probably younger. I was living in Uruguay. My parents were missionaries there. And I had this crazy, I think an immature idea that I could fly from Uruguay to South Africa on a little kit plane that I saw. There was a helicopter on a kit plane magazine that I was buying. And I dreamed about it. One day I'm going to fly to South Africa. And it's going to be at night. So very
more adventurous.
More adventurous even. And I always had a passion about geography, just going around the world and being in different places very quickly, changing cultures and changing countries. So that just the freedom that it gives, just flying like a bird, it was just inspired my imagination of doing all these things.
So for both of you, it was a dream that started when you were young, and you just followed that. And it was more of a dream when you were younger, right? And for you at the age of 16, Mischa.
Yeah.
But then from there, you just took off with it. You started a business.
Yeah, I mean, I always had sort of the entrepreneurial spirit, and so I figured out a way. I'm an Adventist, and so I figured out a way that I wasn't going to have to fly on Saturdays, which is a really hard thing to do. And a lot of people said I could never do it, and it would never happen. I'd never be a commercial helicopter pilot if I didn't fly on Saturdays. And so it takes creativity to make something like that happen. And so I had to go a very unusual route. And it's been a blessing the whole way. Challenging, incredibly challenging, but without challenge, I think you don't get the opportunities. You don't get exposed to the opportunities that I think you could if you didn't put yourself in that situation. I think we found that with the world trip as well.
So when we talk about this world trip, you're going around the world in a helicopter. And so I don't think people realize how involved that is and the planning that goes into that. So talk to us about the planning, about the risks, what you anticipated.
Yeah, well, I mean, before we went, 18 other people had gone around the world, or 18 other helicopters had gone around the world.
That's very few.
Yeah, it's very few. And so planning is a significant part of it. You know, it took us 2 years from the time that, I still remember, as Ruben was talking about earlier, when we first had that discussion in the helicopter while Ruben was getting lessons, I asked him the next day, I said, so were you actually serious about this world trip? Like, I'll do it, but are you actually serious about it? And because you can say things and not be fully meaning it, and I found out very quickly that he fully meant it. And so I was like, well, we better start planning this because it's going to be a big thing. We took 2 years to plan it, and I think we probably could have used more.
More.
Yeah.
It was a short planning. 2 years was short.
See, I think most people in their minds, they think, oh, it's just like getting on a commercial airliner. Buy a ticket, go around the world. This is not like that at all.
There's a lot of details about logistics, from fuel, obviously accommodation, weather, got to be flexible. If you change plans, what happens? Authorizations throughout a lot of airspace in the world. We had a specialized company to get our permits. And this is a company that only does adventure flights around the world and other things, not only around the world, but also that has some type of very special situation of an aircraft. So we engaged them and they helped us. We learned a lot from the previous person that did the same route, and we wanted to beat his record. And this is, as Mischa said, a very small group of people. And they have the same vision, the same passion, and we help each other, right? We already have given other advice to other people who wanted to do it. And the first advice that we give is be very, very serious what you get into, because it's not really something you have to take it lightly, because there's a lot of weight on taking that responsibility of taking risks for the reward. And I think that the biggest thing about this trip is that the reward is huge, but the risk was pretty high.
So, Ruben, you just mentioned that there was a lot of risk involved in this world trip. Did you face any close calls while you were flying around the world?
Well, more than a couple. And I think that probably would be a better setting to be near the helicopter to tell you a couple of them. So let's go down there and talk about that.
So we had a couple close calls on our trip. Ruben, I don't know if you want to talk about the first one. I'll talk about the second one. Yours involved wire. The interesting thing about our close calls were they affected us each differently. And go ahead with yours first.
Yeah, when you go on a trip like this, I remember, Mischa, that we thought everything is going to be smooth.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have an under control schedule. Not going to take any risks, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first one that was kind of surprised after it happened was because it was like the 4th, 5th day, right?
It was just the beginning of the trip.
Beginning of the trip. And
we went a long ways, but it was the beginning of the trip.
Exactly. So we're arriving at Acapulco and very, very excited because the place is beautiful.
Yes.
Going the coast, the weather is impeccable.
Yeah.
And I remember that you were just talking about these amazing
hotels.
Bays and hotels all over the place, right? And we were so excited.
Yeah.
And I know that I remember that I was talking Spanish with the tower, and I think that was a mistake.
That was.
Right?
Yeah.
And because he was more comfortable with Spanish, and just going away with the little directions there. And he says something that I understood going through a certain bay.
Yeah.
So we go to that certain bay, and I know that you and I felt a little bit uncomfortable about that. Right?
Yeah, because backing up just a second, about 15 minutes earlier, he had said that there's a restricted area coming up ahead and you're not allowed below 500 feet.
Yeah.
And now he's telling us descend below 500 feet. And I'm questioning you, and you're saying, no, he's saying descend below 500 feet. And you confirmed it with him.
I believe he did a mistake.
Yes.
But then we go at 500 feet,
Yeah.
and very happy, looking at right side, left side, and all of a sudden, I just see, I was on the
You were on the
control,
controls.
right?
You were flying. Yeah.
And I literally see a wire in front of me, right? Like a wire, right?
But a cable, like
It's a big cable.
a cable.
It's a big cart zip line, I think,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
That it's in Acapulco. I think it's well known,
Yeah.
and you can check it out. And I see this cable in front of me, My reaction, I believe, was a divine moment that I had this reaction that I was not prepared for. I immediately, in this helicopter, you can't push, right? You can't push over because it has that limitation of low Gs. But I put the collective down, put the cyclic down, immediately, like, bam. Like we went below the line.
I was actually filming with my phone at the time, and I dropped my phone. You see
Yes,
it after?
you did.
I dropped my
And
phone.
you got very scared.
and I went and grabbed the controls. Like, what are you doing?
I thought Mischa thought of me going crazy.
I didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
Something was going on because what was happening?
Yeah.
And that was a split of a second. We went literally below the cable, and both of us look at each other and say, what just happened? What happened? And after that, we had to calm down, debrief, decompress. We landed, I think it was 5 or 10 minutes later, in a very the first spot where media was there waiting for us, and
we had to jump right into an interview.
And our faces were not prepared for that. I remember that because we were landing, but we were still thinking that moment was a split second, almost died there.
Yeah, and I recovered from that one. I mean, it was incredibly scary, but I recovered from that one a little faster because I wasn't flying. I wasn't the one making those control inputs. But I think you held on to that one for a long time.
Several days. I think weeks.
2 weeks. You kept bringing it up. I can't believe that. And
how did it happen?
And so forth. Yeah. So I think we each experienced our stories a little bit differently. I remember, we were in Japan, leaving Japan, hopping over the ocean over to Russia. It was a fairly large water hop. And this was late in the trip. This was getting down to the last couple of weeks. And I remember, it was one of those days you wake up, you look outside and it's blue sky, it's beautiful. But we looked at the weather very carefully and there was an overcast layer that was sitting on the ocean kind of between where we were and where we wanted to go. And we were trying to make the right call. Do we go over? Do we go under? How do we work this? The ceiling of the base of those clouds seemed very reasonable, very safe. So we set out on the journey, and that could have been the fateful day for us. It was incredibly dangerous. I've been flying for a long time, 8,000 hours. I've instructed hundreds of students, and through my whole career, I've drilled into every student that if you, when we're flying visual flight rules, which is what this helicopter is rated for, meaning you have to see visually outside, either terrain or land or water or whatever. When you're flying under those conditions, if you fly into cloud accidentally, they call it IIMC, so inadvertent flying into IMC, you lose all your reference, you lose all orientation, and within, typically, the average is 72 seconds, the helicopter's completely out of control, and you end up crashing in the ground, or in this case, the water. And so, we were well over the ocean, 2 hours out, too far to turn around and come back at this stage. The weather was deteriorating on us slowly, and so it lured us in, kind of like the frog, boiling in water, right? And so it lured us in to a point where we couldn't turn around. We were so low to the water that we had to make a choice. That the clouds were basically right above our rotors. We had to make a choice of what we were going to do. And I remember that moment because for me, flying into the cloud was not an option. No. It was absolutely, we have to turn around. We have to land on the water, pop our floats. And you made this call, this momentary call that saved our lives. And it was, we have to climb, we have to go into the clouds. And it was this quick realization, that's the only way we're going to live.
Yeah,
right?
We were so tight,
It was
literally
so tight.
almost.
We were losing reference. We almost couldn't see the water anymore. And so it was this momentary decision. I was flying at that point, and I looked up, onto the instruments, started climbing, and I remember we just went into survival mode. And we were both talking constantly. Okay, watch this, a little higher, watch your altitude, watch your turn there. And I flew for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or something like that. Then you took over, and I kind of went into instructing mode and started talking you through it, and we kind of both worked our way through it. After about 15 minutes in the clouds, we finally broke out, and we were back into visibility. I remember that moment when we broke out. I think we both started crying.
I think so.
There was definitely,
it was too strong of an emotion.
It was too strong of an emotion, and that one stuck with me. I think again harder than it stuck with you. It was so impactful for both of us.
How come we were in that situation? That was your problem.
My problem was, how did I possibly let us get into that situation? And I remember having the thought, this is how the whole trip ends. They're going to read about us in the newspaper saying, guys just about made it around the world, and they crashed as they were arriving in Russia.
Just one thing, Mischa, that when I was flying that moment that you just described, everything comes to your mind, your family, your kids, your wife. And I was thinking, this is it.
Yeah,
we're done. And it was so intense because I was seeing death at any second. Yeah. But yes, we were blessed because obviously after that we saw blue skies and just start crying on happiness.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was definitely angels guiding the helicopter, keeping it stable so that we could make it out of there. It was quite the journey.
What a moment.
You flew over some beautiful places in the world, some tropical beaches, South America, Malaysia, Philippines. You also flew over some very cold places like the frozen tundra of Canada, of Greenland, Russia, and desert in the Middle East. So of all those areas that you flew over, which areas did you like the most? Did you enjoy the most?
Well, it's funny, because people ask that question, and you right away go to kind of the typical ones, the places with the beautiful beaches and kind of the more exotic type areas. But for me, it was kind of two different things. It was, first of all, the people that you encountered and the experience that you had with those people. And then it was also the places that were the most unique or different than what we have around here. You get used to your own surroundings. So when you're in a completely separate, different type of place, that's very unique. So for me, it was places like Greenland, where it was very raw, very pristine, very beautiful, but very, very different than what we have here. Lots of ice and icebergs and things like that. So that was really, really incredible. In places like Far East Russia, where there's not much out there. It's incredible kind of scenery, but the people that you encounter and the culture and kind of getting to know those people and things like that, I think that's a really big one as well. So yeah, lots of memories in different places, but those are a couple that stand out. Yeah.
I have similar places as Mischa, but also some others to add. I really like Greenland. Was amazing because it's so different. It is also, I like places that don't have a lot of people. We just see nature, and it looks like nobody has been there before, which is not realistic because somebody has been there before for sure, that place. But we think that it's not possible that anybody was here before. And I remember some scenes in Greenland, some places of a very tight gorges and with waterfalls and with glaciers and all that. But also the extreme, the other side was Saudi Arabia. For me, Saudi Arabia, especially going from Egypt to Saudi Arabia, crossing, and there's this desert that has some mountain formations. And again, you look at it, how is it possible somebody will survive here? And for me, it was just shocking to see such a long stretch of land that nobody's there, nobody lives there. Yeah. We did 9 hours, I think it was in Saudi Arabia, and now and then we saw some nomad camps, but that was it. And for us it was like little lighthouses of guiding us through the trip. So those moments, the ones that stick forever, I believe. And also Colombia, Myanmar was extremely dense and lush forest. That again, it's
very organized, very pristine,
and then organized. But at the same time, because when we see civilization and urban gatherings, you would see a very simple and even poor houses, but extremely clean, organized, everything in its own place, and not only one house. Every single house was that way. And seeing, that's the benefit of traveling from the air at a helicopter at low altitude from the ground, because you see things that you don't see in an airline. Yeah, that's big memories that I have from these little unique places.
And then, Mischa and Ruben, you relied on something called the power of nice. So can you tell us what you mean by the power of nice?
I remember that when we coined that term, it was kind of natural after midterm or after 2/3 of the trip. It was in Pakistan, I think, that we first talked about it. Yeah. But we had been using it at that time for a long time, probably already for 30, 40 days in the trip. And it is so special when you make everybody special. I think that's the key. We wanted to make sure that independently of the rank, the position, the responsibility of that person that we're going to meet, that we treat them as a unique human being. And we know that people like, first of all, to be called by their own name. So we will always ask when we get someplace, what's your name? That was the first thing we did, right? Yes. So what's your name? My name is Ruben. He'd say, my name is Mischa. What's your name? And he would say, Mohammed. So from that point on, we just tell him, hey, Mohammed. People like to hear their own name. And then a big smile in the face.
Yeah, body language is
body language, making them feel comfortable. Automatically, they don't feel threatened because They see that you are just talking with them in a human-to-human level. Some countries have a social, let's say, position that you're the captain, and they come into a position, we're captains, we got a small ship, but they come to you and say, oh, captain, right? And we left it behind. No, it's just Mohammed, Ruben, right? So we make them feel comfortable, and that little detail opens so many doors.
So many doors, yeah, and it disarms people too. We had a lot of hostile places that we went to as well, or they at least appeared hostile when we first got there. And you go out with that body language. You jump out of the helicopter with a big smile on your face, and you go and try and shake their hand or whatever you can do to greet them. And
made a party.
And you really make a party of the interaction, the first interaction. And you're meeting people that are holding machine guns and straight faces, and they're the police of whatever, and we noticed immediately. We would disarm them, and all of a sudden they'd get a smile, and we'd start talking, and we got favors. It's amazing how it opens up doors, and you get things that normally if you just got out and okay, here's my paperwork, what's next,
nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen, and you're gonna basically fight a lot through every step that you have to go through. And we found that doors would open up for us. Just simple examples, like when we arrived in Mexico, same thing. People with machine guns and whatever. Right away, we had these amazing conversations. Really struck up a friendship. And when the gentlemen were asking, okay, should we search their helicopter now? They said, no, don't worry about it. Why don't you just open the door there? Yeah, okay, everything's good.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are good. You're ready to go. And we would have never gotten that kind of treatment without creating that relationship. And that was already after doing a little bit of paperwork with them and so forth. But the stories just go on and on about how the power of nice opened doors for us throughout the entire trip. I mean, we could go on for hours on it, but there's lots of good examples.
But I want to just add that in the beginning, it was something spontaneous that we had it naturally. We knew that this will work. But then after I think we went a little bit even better and better because we planned it. Because now we're going to land. What are we going to do special for these guys? Let's do a little party here. We get out. Okay, Ruben, you get out. I do this, I do that. And let's dance around the helicopter, and it's going to impact the person. What's going on, right? So if you have a boring job of just refueling, all of a sudden you have something special, and you go back home and say, oh, these guys, crazy guys, they just jump out of the helicopter and just start dancing. And so we wanted to make it a special event. I think that was the case, that we wanted to make a special event that they will remember and that opened doors.
Yeah, we had an interesting time in Saudi Arabia. We had been told by the previous person that had done the trip, same trip as us, that you have to plan for multiple days in Saudi Arabia. Each fuel stop is going to take you minimum an hour and a half, just because of all the red tape that you have to go through and so forth. And so we thought, okay, we can do this in one day. Let's see how quickly we can make these fuel stops. And so we used the power of nice to the extreme level, and we timed each fuel stop. And they were between 11 and 12 minutes on each fuel stop.
Wow. We did the record refueling in Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, and it was just unbelievable, how it can open doors for you. One of the biggest examples, that we don't want to go into all the details right now because it's a very long story, but through a bellboy in Dubai at a hotel, we were able to obtain authorizations that we didn't think we were going to get into Pakistan. And through his connection, that he met somebody, and the relationship that Ruben had formed with him in previous trips, just that power of nice, he had already that connection, that relationship. He did a favor of a dignitary that was there at that time. He opened the door for us to get the permit that we needed to get into that country. Without that person, we would have never gone into Pakistan, meaning we would have never been able to accomplish the full mission of the trip. The plan for this trip was to go, around the world, but to touch two opposite points of the earth, two antipodes, right? And so the first one was in Neva, Colombia. The second one was in Palembang, Indonesia. And the only way for us to get to Indonesia was to go through Pakistan and India and so forth. And so without the opening the doors of that one bellboy, we would have never been able to accomplish that trip and break the world record and accomplish the mission that we had set out to do. So it's amazing what that power of nice can do.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We've come to a very crucial spot in our story, and we're going to have to call it time out. We've come to the end of our time together. But I wonder, as we close this week, if Mischa, you can close with a word of prayer for us.
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to just come together and remember a few of these experiences, these incredible moments in our lives, and where you intervened for us, Lord, and you were there in a very tangible and a very crucial way for us. And I just pray that you continue to go through every part of our lives with us. Take care of us, Lord. Watch over us. And I just pray that you bless each person that is viewing this right now, for them to be able to have a true experience with you as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. It really was an experience, and we look forward to continuing the story next week. So hope you can join us to continue telling your story.
Okay.
Good.
Friends, if you are inspired by Ruben and Mischa's adventure, then you will want to get our free offer today.
The information for how to get our free offer is on the screen right now. The book is entitled The Epic Dream, a round-the-world helicopter adventure of risk, reward, and the power of nice.
To request today's offer, just log on to www.itiswrittencanada.ca. That's www.itiswrittencanada.ca. If you prefer, you may call toll-free at 1-888-CALL-IIW. That's 1-888-CALL-IIW. Call anytime. Lines are open 24 hours daily. That's 1-888-CALL-IIW. Or if you wish, you may write to us at It Is Written, Box 2010, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H 7V4. And thank you for your prayer requests and your generous financial support. That's It Is Written, Box 2010, Oshawa, Ontario, L1H 7V4.
Before you go, we would also like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also listen to our podcasts. And if you go to our website, you can see our latest programs, including our cooking demonstrations, our short spiritual messages entitled Daily Living, and our exercise workouts called Experiencing Life.
Friends, we want you to experience the truth that is found in the words of Jesus when he said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God."
All right, you guys, we are 24 minutes away from liftoff. Unbelievable, guys. This is the big moment. We're officially starting, Ruben. What an amazing country we live in, you guys. Hard to believe we are where we are right now. Northern Territories, Nunavut. This is amazing. My friend, we're back! Oh my goodness, my friend, we're here. I can't believe it.